Welcome to the Near Patients Podcast. I'm the host, Henry Wilson, and it would be amazing if you would like and share this podcast. Also, please consider subscribing on YouTube or following on Spotify for more content. This episode is brought to you by eStudio 54. I hope you enjoy. Mr. Thomas Lewandowski, how are you today?
I'm doing super. I'm doing super. I'm glad to be here on this podcast.
Well, thank you for joining me. I know you're not the biggest fan in the world of podcasts, but you're a really fascinating guy, and I really enjoy being in your class. So I really wanted to get you on and just ask you a few questions and just have a ball.
I appreciate that, and I will answer every question that I can to the extent that I can answer it in the fullness of
your answer,
truth and transparency in answers.
Ah, yes, the EOL answers. So what made you become an English teacher, and more specifically, what drew you to become an IB English teacher?
Well, let's see now. I think every teacher has their own little trajectory that they're on. My journey in education started with a reggae band, and I played reggae for about 10 years, and it was good. It was very good. But it is not a great way to support a family, to be able to do, like I could live in a van and I could eat macaroni and cheese for a long time. And I did it for a long time. But in the end, I wanted other things from life. Not that I didn't want those things when I had those things. When I had those things, it was great. I loved it. But then it was time for a change. And so education was a good option for me to move in a different direction.
You were in a reggae band. I never knew that. That's really fascinating. What instruments did you play?
Well, bass is my main instrument. That's what I started playing when I was about 10, 11 years old. I started playing the upright bass. And so when I played music, it was mostly bass. And now I play guitar, but at some point I'm going to get a set of drums. That's going to be really great. I really enjoy playing the drums. It's like instant bliss,
instant gratification.
Yeah, and I've always annoyed all the drummers that I've known in my life, and I've known a lot of drummers. A lot of my closest friends in high school, college, after college, and even now, my best friend is a drummer who's transitioning out of music and into what's that horrible job where you do math all day long?
Engineering, mathematician?
But you make like a ton of money. You work for insurance companies.
Oh, an accountant, right?
It's even worse than that.
Oh, my.
It's like you're like an analyzer of...
Is it like an insurance analyst or something of that sort?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. I can't think of it. He talks about it all the time. You have to take all these exams. I think probably everybody who's listening to this right now knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's a job.
It's a job.
Yeah, but he was a drummer, and he's my best friend. And he's also 41 years old, and now he's going back and getting like a master's degree in mathematics because he's really smart. But he played music for a long time, and now same reasons, family, things, other ways to live. So he's going to become a math person who makes a lot of money.
Well, that's one way to do it. So when you're in I can never pronounce reggae, right?
Reggae. Mm-hmm.
Reggae. Where did you normally perform? What part of the States? Did you go cross country, or was it like in a specific area normally?
We performed a lot in Minnesota, Wisconsin, North and South Dakota, Iowa, Nebraska, but Colorado. But then I did a lot of playing most of my money probably I made not with playing any one band, but with playing just one-off. I had a lot of weekly gigs, so I played there was a cigar bar in Minneapolis that I played at every Thursday. There were like a couple of dance, I'll call them a dance review shows that I did, that I played live music at with a like a big band, you know. So playing upright bass or playing bass in general, there's a lot of work available because a lot of different styles of music need a bass player. So I did everything from like playing in a church to like a lot of like Friday, Saturday night music, like at a restaurant, you know, the background music as a band, and then like weddings, a lot of weddings and things like that. So there was a time where I was playing like 5 nights a week.
Wow.
And standard pay back then was like, you know, $100 was pretty good, you know, but sometimes it'd be more, it'd be 150, sometimes $200 if it was a wedding, you know. So it was enough to survive and like pay some kind of rent. I lived in I have another friend who's a mathematician. He's actually an IB math teacher. He's my other best friend. And he's, I lived in his house with him for a long time. Like he paid the mortgage and I was like the guy who lived not on the couch. I had my own bedroom, but
You're the straggler that helped out with bills every so often.
yeah, as much as I could, you know.
That's cool.
And then he got married and he was like, yeah, you can stay. That's fine. You know, we'll just be a little family. We'll just be a little family of 3. And then I think he was going to have his first child, Catherine. And he was like,
yeah,
it's time.
It's time.
It's time for you to move on. But, you know, that was
That's awfully kind for him to let you stay for a little while, though.
Yeah, well, he's a great guy. He's a great friend. He's, you know, I've had a lot of tragedies in my life, and he's been there for all of them. Like that's not like a kind of a joke, but like, I lost my dad when I was at a pretty young age, and I lost my sister when I was at a young age, and I lost my older brother when I was at a young age too.
Wow.
And I think he's the only person who was at all of those funerals. You know, he was always kind of there. He was actually my next door neighbor as a college freshman. He was my next door neighbor roommate. And it turned out that my roommate hated me. And it was like pretty mutual. And his roommate also hated him. Well, maybe not hated him, but you know, it just wasn't
disliked.
Wasn't a real clicking situation. And we swapped roommates, like for our sophomore year. So Robert and Nate became roommates, and me and Tommy became roommates.
Mm.
So we were a Tom and Tommy combo. We picked up another Tom when we were juniors in college. So we had
the triangle of Toms.
Yeah, we had 6 in the house, and there were 2 Toms and a Tommy. It's pretty good. Catholic college, you're gonna have a lot of Toms in a Midwestern Catholic college, and there were.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know my father. He lost his sister as well when he was in his late adolescence. So, on behalf of me, I'm sorry for your loss on that. That ends up affecting quite harsh, I would say.
Yeah, well, it's, you know, it's like life is very precious, you know, when you have it, and so you just kind of have to hold on to it because you don't know, you don't know. So
yeah,
so keep your keep your ledger balanced, you know, keep your conscience clean, and keep your karma ledger balanced, and you know, but. Death is it's the next thing, you know. I don't know what all of that entails in it, like being the next thing. It's the unknown, the undiscovered country.
Yeah.
So
it seems like just kind of in general, humans, they really, just us in general, we want to understand what's going on. And after death, it's, you know, it's final. You're not able to understand what goes on until you get there. So with life, you just want to be, like you said, it's precious, and you just really want to enjoy it as much as you can. And I know with me is, you know, I'm only 17. I still have a lot of life to live, hopefully. So the idea is just try to be a positive person, try to adapt to what comes your way, and just try to be the best person you can be. You know, try to have that positive karma balance at the end of your life.
Yeah, and you know, even with like the tragedies that I've lived through, like my life is unquestionably better now than it was when I was 17. Like it was, you know, I think, it's like, and it didn't really get better in the 20s either. Even though I did a lot of the things that I wanted to do, I just didn't have the things in my life that I need to have in my life in order to have like stability and presence, you know? So like, you know, at least for me, like having a stable partner and my wife is like huge. And then having children who get me out of my own head, you know, and like give me things that are just like endlessly fascinating and surprising and vexing and confusing to like put some of my intellectual energy into. Those are really good. And I'm also like very, you know, like I love playing music, but the like musical vagabond lifestyle, you know, I'm more of like I need like a place to be centered, a place to recharge, a place that's like, it's mine, you know? So
do you feel like, I know a lot of people, they find solace in, like as with constants as like maybe your home, your work, your relationship, and children. Out of let me think. Does your work that you do as being a teacher, does that bring you any solace in life? Does that make you think that you're teaching the future generations, that you're help guiding people through, you know, the later, you know, our later stages of development, at least as, you know, teenagers, into the future they want to go into? Does that bring you solace or happiness?
For sure. Yeah. And that's a good, like, you know, when I say that I was in music and then I moved to being a teacher because I was like, I need to have a, you know, you know, it's not just any job. Like for me, like the work that you do has to have a certain degree of authenticity and like realness to it, you know, and buying and selling things or convincing people to buy things has just never been where my energy is, you know. Like I can be pretty charming. I can try to convince people to do things. But I would rather like take all that energy and convince people to like read a book that I think is really good, or think about some ideas that I feel are like valuable in having a good life, you know? And so in my work, I get to have relationships that I value that aren't, you know, they're not mediated by like, I want you to, not even really by doing your homework, because like, I like kids that do their homework. I like kids that work hard, but like, I don't really like them any more than kids who don't, you know, like, it's just like, hey, you know, we're in this place called public school and here we are, you know, which has been really sucky during the pandemic. But before that and after that, I hope, you know, it gets back to like, we're a little community, we're a little family, we're a little like, ha ha ha, look how different we are. But like, here we are in the same room and I'm the person in charge of trying to move us in a direction where we just don't feel like it's a waste of time, you know?
Yeah. There's, even though with IB you have the year-end test and you have to write the essays and everything, there's a little bit more structure than it would be if it was just a typical, you know, English 11, English 12 class. Even with that, do you feel like you are able to kind of guide the teaching in the way that you seem fit, and also use a lot of these authors that have really inspired you in the past in order to teach lessons to help, you know, expand vocabulary, expand worldview with teaching IB?
Yeah, it's really ideal. I mean, that's why I took this job. I had a pretty good job. I worked at a high school called Rogers New Technology Academy, which is like really kind of innovative learning environment. It did a lot of things differently, a lot of project-based learning. Like one of the big things was like, as a school where I had policy, you didn't have to ask to go to the bathroom. Like nobody has to ask to go to the bathroom.
They just do.
Right. If you're 14, you're 15 years old, you know your body. You should be able to be like, I am experiencing that sensation right now where
I need to use the facilities.
I could go with a little bit of relief, you know, from this pressure. And it's just like, it normalized the, like, you are a human. Of course, go to the bathroom.
Yes.
You know? So it was a really good learning environment, and like, but IB, like the stuff that I get to teach is like, you know, there was one life trajectory that I didn't take where I, you know, could have gotten a master's degree and then a PhD in the field of literary studies or something like that, and taught college. And I think that teaching IB is like better than that. Like it's
how so?
Well, I think there's a bunch of other stuff that goes along with teaching college that I would first personally find like pretty annoying. You know, like,
What would be something like that, if I might ask?
Well, depending on the school you're at, there would be like a pressure to publish different things.
Yeah.
And like the, I think that like the standard academic publishing model is, I think, kind of sad. You know, it's kind of sad because you might work really hard to like create a paper that you feel is pushing your field in a certain direction, but like ultimately nobody cares. Like nobody, like, you know, I mean, you know, like I love like John Milton. I love like, you know, reading or, you know, more modern writers, but like, I don't know. I can't imagine anything that I would say about a writer would be worth that much of my time. Like,
yeah.
Not that nobody, you know, would ever want to read it, or that wouldn't be like, oh, that's an interesting look at, you know,
Octavio Paz or something.
yeah, or whatever. But like, I would rather just make a YouTube video and like put it out there. And if people like it, great. They could watch it and they could learn something from it, or they could use it for some purpose. Like, you know, they found it. Like, they're going to watch it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes and then say, thanks. That helped me in some way. That seems like a lot better way for me to bring my ideas in the world than like, oh my gosh, let me submit 8 papers. I hope one of them got picked up by a very obscure, you know,
literary
online
magazine
academic
out of Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's like, wow.
Yeah, you know, or something like that. But like, that seems like too much work.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I really like the idea of podcasts. I know you're not the biggest fan of podcasts, but
that's just, you know, one of the, I've taken a stand for no reason, you know, like there's nothing inherently wrong with podcasts,
them, yeah.
but I am kind of contrarian by nature in some ways. You know, I like to have, I guess I'm probably like a cat, you know, like I like my little area. I like my things that I know about, and people will be like, well, what about this thing over here? I'm like, I have determined that is not a thing. I'm not going to go in that direction. Yeah, but
that's outside my patrol territory area.
Yeah, this is in my territory. I get YouTube. I get I like it as a way to connect with people or put ideas out there, or not, you know, like, or just like not putting ideas out there is fine too. But I have a friend that I knew for a brief time when I lived in Honduras, who's a pretty serious podcast purveyor. I think he owns a production company and does a lot of like Latin American podcasts that are picked up by big networks. I mean, I think he's been on like National Public Radio and
wow, that's
all
impressive.
Those different kinds of, you know, so like audio storytelling, like the power of a connection between two people to drive a conversation in a direction that you didn't know it was going, and there's value in that, and like being caught up in that. I just don't have the patience to listen to really anybody talk. I
feel exactly what you mean. With me is that I'm starting to value my time a lot more than I used to, because, you know, growing up, that's one factor I guess everybody kind of has. You start to specialize in what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy. And with podcasts, I find myself only listening to, if I do listen to podcasts, I only listen to maybe 2 or 3 authors. Meanwhile, I know some people that they listen to 10 or 15. I'm like, that's just too much. You know, they listen to murder and crime over here, and then they listen to Joe Rogan talk about whatever Joe Rogan talks about over there.
Whatever he doesn't know about. That's his shtick, right? I'm a moron.
Yeah, and then he lets the guest talk.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the guest is maybe not the wisest in certain fields, but I give a lot of respect to him. He was the one, it seems like, that brought podcasts into the sphere outside of the murder mysteries, kind of just the general open dialogue. And that's what I like. I like talking to people. I like trying to understand what they mean.
Yeah, he's making money.
He's making money.
He's making money. He's making money. There's no problem. Nothing wrong with that.
He is, what would the economics say? He's providing a service that people are willing to pay for. So he is making money off of that service.
I think that there's like there's a quality to the human voice that can be like hypnotic. If you look at somebody like Rush Limbaugh, who was able to so effectively cultivate his followers for years and years and hours and hours and hours, and for his radio show, which I think was 3 hours a day for 35 years or 40 years, he would have a little bit of a plan. He would have some guests, but he would like read the newspaper and be like,
he would literally read the newspaper.
And be correct. Like, can you believe this? But people were, they were captivated by his personality, by his sincerity, by his candor.
Yes.
But I think almost on a subconscious level, maybe just the tone and cadence of his voice, that he was able to carry them through those hours, so they didn't maybe feel alone.
Yes.
for a time, and and he was very, very effective at doing that. I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing. I'm not talking about his like political views, but just like that you can be swept along by the sound of somebody's voice so much that you kind of like feel like you know them. You feel like you're having an intimate human reaction with someone, but you're just...
Yeah, and that's one of those things that I've always been kind of curious with YouTubers. Specifically, there's a YouTuber I watch. His name is Linus from Linus Tech Tips. You might have seen a video or so. And he makes videos about just computer hardware and stuff. And there's a little culture at his little media group that he has of 10, 15 employees. And and a lot of his viewers know about his family, know about what's going on, just because he puts that out there in the world. And I've always been curious what it's like to know someone so much, and it seems like you almost know them, but they don't know a single thing about you. And that's just because, they haven't been around you, they haven't experienced you, but you're able to understand this one-sided conversation that the person is having because you know their thoughts, you know their opinions, and then they don't know anything about you because you haven't put your thoughts, opinions out there, or at least they have not been broadcast enough for them to understand where that is.
Yeah, and that's something I think about, or it is one of the things I wonder about, like with my YouTube channel, is like, to what degree do I try to make like a little bit of a turn, because people come to the channel to like get some specific information. They come to like gain an understanding of a thing. And a lot of
Canon
times,
Wars. Oh, I want to watch episode number 8.
Yeah, I don't know.
I really did like that series. I know you signed that as homework, or rather work for us to do, but I really did like the Canon Wars when we did that.
It was kind of like an experiment to see how boring I could make something. I mean, not
it was a little boring, but it was fascinating at the same time, if that makes you feel better.
It was like, if I don't hold anything back and I go for pure depth, I always think like, for that series in particular, I was kind of like, how much is it possible to learn, going through this experience, so, and I just, I don't know. And I didn't care if it was boring or if it like took a long time to get through it, because I was like, this is designed for the person who is like, I want to learn as much as I can.
Exactly.
I don't care, because gosh, if you can like, you can watch a Netflix episode or, a series of episodes for like 4 hours.
Why not learn about, who is it? Harold Bloom and...
I think Harry Levin,
Harry Levin,
was a scholar who wrote.
Yeah, Harry Levin from...
the introduction to the Riverside Shakespeare edition.
Yeah. And then there was the... I watched it. Don't worry. I ended up watching it. I kind of forgot some of it, so... But...
No, you can watch it again. That's the great thing.
Yes, I can. That's the great thing at YouTube.
It's always waiting for you if you...
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe your most viewed YouTube video is the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I think that's like a full, when you have like 2 titles and then you have a junior at the end, that's when you achieved it.
That's a lot.
He was a great guy too, but but that's besides the point. The I Have a Dream speech, I think that's your most viewed, about like 80, 90,000. And the coolest thing from that is that if you go to the comment section, you don't see people are like, oh, my teacher forced me to watch this, da 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 da. But what you see is stressed out IB students from Germany and from France being like, oh my gosh, you're such a lifesaver. Thank you so much for doing this.
Yeah.
And I watched through that, and a lot of that just as, as an American who's fascinated with U.S. and just world history, that I knew a lot of those, little annotations. I think it was like, we gather here on this day, and it was what you mentioned. It was like, this is a gathering, this is a protest, this is a march. And then a lot of people, and then like I thought about that, I was like, a lot of people who, English is their second language, they may not understand that context. Mm-hmm. Similar to how if we were to read, something about maybe a manifesto that was written by a famous Mexican author during, the
Mexican Civil War.
The Mexican Civil War. That's what I was going for. I was about to say the French invasion of Mexico, but then I was like, I don't actually know if there's any. But I bet there is. I'm sorry for the fellow Mexicans out there that I accidentally offended. I plead ignorance on that. But it was one of those things that it's fascinating to just see how your ideas and your help can go from just, lowly South Central United States to somewhere all the way in Germany, somewhere in India, South Africa, just all around the world. I thought that was a really fascinating thing that you did.
Yeah, it's been fun. And it was I remember I think the channel was so old that when I first made it, I think I had the option to monetize. It was before they put any restrictions on subscribers or anything like that. And
yeah, now it's 1,000 subscribers, and I think you need about 1,000 or 2,000 views a month or something to that extent.
It's 4,000 watch hours a year and 1,000 subscribers. But when I monetized, it kind of felt a little different, and I do enjoy statistics and information and analytics and looking at where viewers are coming from and what they're getting and what the average watch time is and the different modes of viewing and interaction. There's a lot of data,
Yes.
So I'm kind of I don't know. My mind gravitates towards data just because it's information.
Yeah, it's just straight information that you can interpret.
Yeah. So it's been fun and interesting. And now that I make more than $100 a month, my wife doesn't make fun of me anymore
from YouTube. Okay,
for having a YouTube channel.
I feel kind of bad, but since you mentioned it, I don't feel as bad. But Noah and I, a few days ago, we were going on to one of my friends that I knew from Haas Hall. He has a YouTube channel and he plays Rocket League.
Sure.
I have a feeling one of your sons or daughters play Rocket League.
I am familiar with Rocket League.
Yes.
It's a fine game.
It is a fine game.
Yeah.
And
it's a high school sport, I believe, now too.
Yes, it's an esport. That and other World of Warcraft, League of Legends, other esports like that. But he was really good at it, and he started doing trick shots, trying to get into the goal, all that jazz. And he started out with 20 subscribers. I think I was his 24th. And he just kind of started it one day, kept producing content, and then now he just broke 100,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And he's even verified on YouTube. And I'm like, wow, I know someone who's verified. And it's one of those things is I haven't talked to him in maybe a few weeks, but it was if I ever called him or texted him for something, he'd be like, hey, how are you? Kind of, which I think is kind of a unique thing, because if you just kind of, and I like to put it in our place in history. I'm a big history nerd. So when you put your place in history, if you were to think about a newspaper, late 1880s that had 100,000 subscribers, 100,000 people reading it, or businesses, people, whatever, who subscribed it, were reading what you were writing or what you were publishing every day. That would be a huge success. But in the age of the internet, 100,000 subscribers, that's a lot. But compared to, I don't know, Mr. Beast, he probably has 25 million. It's it's insane how big these online followings get.
Well, I think, your friend might be an excellent podcast guest.
I was thinking that as well.
You could talk to him about his growth trajectory and what it was like and what kind of surprises were involved for him. But I don't know. You wonder what those interactions mean, what they're worth to the person. Are you it's kind of like consuming content, you know? Are you having an interaction with a text, or are you consuming content where you're just like, I need something to fill the void.
Fill the void in my brain.
Fill the void. Oh, Rocket League. Oh, look at that trick shot. It has given me 15 seconds of relief.
And dopamine release in my head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm not doing that to like, I'm not saying that to
Yes,
belittle
yes.
what someone has done, because they're passionate about it and people care about it. And like, that's awesome.
Go right ahead. You know, you do you.
Yeah. Watch Rocket League videos for, you know, for forever. You know, never stop watching Rocket League videos.
Viva la Rocket League.
Yeah, or making them. So it's good.
So you mentioned that you you're in a reggae band. Is there any specific type of genre of music you like other than reggae? Any music that's coming out today that you enjoyed? Any from the past?
Yeah, I like music a lot. You know, I read something in the last week or so, probably on Twitter, so like it's disconnected from every other. It's just like a, you know, it's just a little thing rattling around my brain, some words that someone said somewhere. But about music being like just a relief from the burden of the self, you know, something like that. Like, you know, you kind of always carry yourself around with you, and that, I mean, it has good things and bad things, and you know, when things are great, that's great, but that comes with the you know, the pressure or the anxiety about keeping them great.
Yeah.
And when they're bad, you know, that sucks. They're bad. You know, you're always carrying yourself with you, but you can actually get some significant relief from the burden of carrying yourself with you by playing music. You know, because it's like
by creating it and playing it.
By creating it and playing it, it just moves you to a different place. It moves you to a different place in a way that is like really restorative and healthy, you know, and then you can kind of come back into your own world. I don't know, just after having like kind of taken a vacation from yourself, because at least for me, even if I'm just noodling on the guitar or like playing the piano, I'm never really thinking about myself when I'm doing that, you know. So that's good. And then music that's good also replicates that sensation, particularly with reggae music, because it's so. I had a college professor in college who was a strangely enough,
wow,
whose area of, now this wouldn't be a bad scholarly gig, because his area of professional expertise was reggae music. He was an English professor, but his area of study and where he did his own publishing was in like the like kind of like the cultural anthropology of Rastafarianism and reggae music.
That's cool.
And yeah, he wrote papers. I read some of his papers that he wrote about it. But like reggae music is like trance music. You know, like not, you know, there's electronic music that's trance music, and but the idea of that, it's like it's a mode to achieve kind of like a spiritual place through basically like repetition, and it's the bass line that repeats. Yeah. You know, so like you know, if you think like the bass line that just came to mind when I said that is from a song that's called "Them Belly Full." You know, with the bass line goes doom 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 doom. But like that repetition like that,
and then it builds off of that.
And I think it's almost like you know, probably like if you hook somebody up to a EKG in their brain, like your brain waves just kind of like sync up and
it's
just
like
start
a sine wave.
Yeah, and just start to go like smooth waves, bro. Yeah, here we go. You kind of ride that out, and then there's little things that'll grab your attention. You know, like in like YouTube videos and making YouTube videos, like you're supposed to have like some kind of, like if you watch like Davey 504 or something, like you're supposed to have like every 5 seconds, or for him, like every second and a half, like a camera shift or like a filter shift or something, because our brains just need a little
bit more,
a little something, a little, well, I guess it's probably like a dopamine rush from like a surprise stimulation of just like, this is unexpected, this is surprising.
Unexpected instant gratification.
I need to interpret this. But like reggae music for the most part is the opposite. It's just like, be here, you know, be here. And then like, you know, then there's a melody, and then there's like the drums do some interesting variations at different times. But it's almost like a drone, and it's like, at least my college professor thought it's a very spiritual. It's a very spiritual thing, because you're trying to achieve
a different
place.
dimension of the mind, or a different place of the mind.
Yeah, and it is, and it's kind of like serenity and peace. But then, like, if you look at the history of the music, there's also like really, really interesting stuff about liberation. Liberating the spirit, because if you look at where it comes from, Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
Jamaica is a place that was abused as a colony by a lot of powerful world entities that I think the British kind of did their reign of terror there, and the Americans
the whole sugar fields and sugarcane fields.
And so it was also there's a really great book that's called A History of Seven Killings by Marlon James. And it was a fun book to read, because he's from Jamaica, and it's all written in Jamaican dialect that you just have to kind of like unwind for yourself. You got to like figure out how to read the dialect. But there was a lot of violence around Bob Marley, a lot of violence around the community that he lived in, a lot of violence associated with even like the early record industry, when they started to be able to make money and like put on concerts.
By violence, if I may ask, is it that would it be violence that was conducted towards him, or is it like a resistance of what he was trying to do with his music?
No, it was like organized crime.
Oh, okay.
Organized crime, violence. And at least in this novel, which is kind of like a novelized version of an attempt on his life, where I think he was shot. I think he was shot.
Is Bob Marley reggae?
Yeah. Okay. Bob Marley is like he's like the Elvis Presley.
You want to hear
something?
Reggae? You want to hear something funny?
You've never heard a reggae song. You have no idea what I'm talking about.
No, I know. So with reggae, admittedly, I don't. It's not like with jazz. I understand more as a fundamental concept than I do reggae, because I've been always fascinated with jazz, how people are able to improv and make it sound so melodic and just magnificent at the same time. But with reggae, I guess I never really made the connection that Bob Marley was reggae, and now I feel kind of like a fool. The thing with Bob Marley is that I think about every night from the age of about 1 all the way to about the age of 9, I would listen to Bob Marley's greatest hits.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yes, Noah and I, my twin, he was on episode 1 and episode 2 of this podcast. Go, little plug there. Go watch or listen to those if you haven't one.
You should definitely do that. Those podcasts are amazing.
Yes, we try our best. We interrupt each other a lot in the first one, which we'll improve on. But yeah, we would, I'd be in my little twin bed on one side of the room, he'd be on the other, and then in between us, it'd be a little chest with, our clothes in it, and then one of those old CD players with the little antenna. It's like a big oval that you have the speakers on the side that, now you could probably find at Goodwill for like $5. Just put the CD in and press repeat or shuffle, and you just listen to it all night long.
So did you choose where you were like, all right, it's time?
Oh,
it's time. It's Bob Marley time.
It's Bob Marley time. I think it was kind of, let me think. So my parents, admittedly, were very good on getting us to sleep. We minded them, so I guess that wasn't too terribly difficult. Anyway, they would just say, it's 8 o'clock, go to bed. We'd be like, okay. So we would go to bed. And, when you just go to bed after a while, it's like a positive habit. You just click the shuffle and you go to bed. I'm not sure why we stopped listening to it. Oh, I remember. So we entered a raffle for my mom's work. It was like a $1 ticket. She was like, why not? And she was like, Henry, put your name on this. And I was like, okay. Just wrote my name, Henry Wilson. And the raffle was for a TV. And we ended up winning the raffle for a 40-inch TV. And at that time, it was a pretty pricey TV, it being 2010, 2011. About that. 2010 or so. And then we had a rule that we weren't allowed to actually watch TV when we were at bed. But over time, my mom was like, I don't care anymore. Just do it. Just make sure you actually get sleep and don't be cranky in the morning. So I think that's probably when we stopped listening to Bob Marley. But Bob Marley's always kind of had that impact in my life that I can just start listening to that, and I'm like always calm, just kind of going with the flow. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of interesting that you mentioned all of that.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole world of reggae that's beyond Bob Marley. There's even Bob Marley that you've never heard. That like his early stuff, like his he's got this great song called Small Axe. I think the first record company that he was with was like called Treehouse Records or something like that. Like it was like a tree, like Oak Tree Records or something like that. And they ripped him off because that's what would happen. You know, they ripped him off. They trapped him in a contract. They weren't giving him the money that he deserved. They weren't like recognizing that he was, you know, or maybe they did recognize and they just tried to get everything they could from him, you know, while he could still sing and work a band the way that he could.
Yeah.
So he wrote this song called Small Axe. And the words go, if you're a big tree, I'm a small axe. I'm going to chop you down and chop you down. Then he like, you know, got out of his contract and became a worldwide superstar.
That's cool.
So yeah. And then, you know, you know how he died?
How did he die?
He got an infection in his foot.
Really?
Like a pretty standard infection. Like I'm not sure if it was like some illness or if he injured it playing soccer. He was like a very, very serious soccer player. You know, he has a son that played professional football.
Really?
Like 10 sons.
I think there's it might be Bob Marley 3 or like the third, but like they're actually like a reggae artist or like they're a rap artist that has influence of reggae or something like that.
You're probably thinking Damian Marley is probably the best.
Damian Marley, that's probably.
You know, there's Ziggy Marley. There's a lot of.
There's a lot of them. They try.
He's a proud father, big family. You know, his kids have all done really interesting things.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think with Bob Marley is that he didn't really push his children to go into the music industry or do whatever, but it was the whole idea of, you know, he was you know, a pretty good father with, you know, guiding his children to go onto certain lives because he did have a good amount of children.
He had a lot. Yeah,
he had a lot. I know that.
But yeah, he had this foot infection, and it was a fixable situation. You know, the antibiotics, the treatment. You know, he could have been fine. But I think as a part of his commitment to his religion, Rastafarianism, he just didn't. And he died.
Well, I don't really know what to say on that one, you know, other than, you know, modern medicine's pretty cool, but.
And I think that's pretty true.
Yes.
I mean, some of those things I say, but I think that one's true. The one about his record company, that might be only partially true.
Yeah, that's something. Sorry for the noises in the background. Wait, so right now, how many more minutes do you think we can do this for?
About gotta go. There's probably like 12 things I should do right now.
Okay. Well, that being said, Mr. Thomas Lewandowski, Tom, thank you for coming on to my podcast today. You've always been one of those, you know, really fascinating guys I've always just wanted to talk to, just longer with. And now I feel like I have a greater appreciation for, you know, how you became an English teacher. And it's, you know, kind of breaking the barrier between a student and a teacher to understand, you know, who they actually are. They're not just somebody who, you know, with the red pen going, or something.
Well, so. That's very good, Henry. And it's very healthy too. You know, if it was up to me, I would probably never talk to anyone. So the world needs so the world needs people like you who are like seeking out people to talk to and like bring things out of, as much as it needs people like me who don't want to talk to anyone.
Yeah, there's a line that I heard. It was one of the goals in someone's life is to seek to understand the conflicts that divide us. And I like to change that to a different extent, but seek to understand other people and ideas you don't understand. And, you know, that's what I like to do. That's what one of these more open forum podcasts are about. So
awesome.
Yes. Do you have any final thoughts or?
No.
Okay.
No. Final thoughts.
I think I'm all good too. So, for all those listening out there, thank you for listening. Please consider subscribing to the Near Patients podcast. Also, please consider subscribing to Mr. Thomas Lewandowski on his YouTube channel. That will be in the description below. And other than that, Mr. Lewandowski, have a great day. And to all those listening, have a great day.